Hi, welcome back to Overherd on Social by The Goat Agency, the podcast for people who want a mix of marketing tips, culture, influencer news, social media tips, and interesting chats with interesting people, but without taking itself too seriously. I'm here with my co-host, Matthew Wyatt. Matt, what's new with you? And do you have a fun fact for the episode?
I do have a fun fact. What's new is that the vlog is coming back, which is my bread and butter. Are you happy?
Yes, yeah. I think it's something that's been needed. You know, it was difficult, obviously, with founders leaving, but everyone is keen for it to come back. Every time I walk into new business meetings, they're like, "Hey, where's the vlog gone? Where's that guy Matt who's running around your office?" So I'm sure we'll talk about the vlog in more detail, but there's some really fun things to come.
Yeah, the weirdest, nichest job. Obviously, I'm a bit rusty because my camera is out of arm's reach. But anyway, my fun fact for today, which will become relevant, is that, let me get it right, George Washington, there was a myth that he had dentures that are made out of wood.
I have heard that.
Splinters in the mouth.
Splinters in the mouth. God, painful.
Ouch.
But actually, they weren't. They were made of a mishmash of hippopotamus ivory,
Okay.
human teeth, and brass.
Great. Good
And
for
the
him.
reason that it's relevant, I'll let you talk about.
Oh, okay. I see the
Nice segue.
Yeah, I see the segue there because this is a very special episode because we are sitting down with GOAT's new global president, Alex Burgess.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
So Alex, we've obviously known for a while. Matt, you've known for years because you were previously our global managing director and have been at GOAT for a long time. But this is a new role and we're really excited to hear about your perspectives on it and on the wider influence industry as well. So to kick off, do you want to just give us a bit of an intro to who you are, where you're from, and what this new role actually entails?
I'm Alex Burgess, and I've just stepped into the role of global president at GOAT, taking over from Aaron and the other two departing founders. I've grown up in London my whole life, worked at GOAT for 10 years, which I'm sure we'll touch on in this. And the new role, as I said, is taking over from Aaron, but it's the strategic building and growth of the business really top down, working with our key clients, agency, stakeholders, platform relationships, and making sure the business is growing and delivering fantastic work. And I'm very excited.
It's a meaty job, isn't it?
It is. It's a big challenge. So I thought for this episode, we'd sort of, the first half, just focus on like you and your career and your experience at GOAT. And then in the second half, go into a bit around the actual wider influencer industry and agency landscape and your thoughts on that. So to go right all the way back, when you were in school, what do you remember, like what you thought you would be doing at this age?
I was desperate to be a footballer.
I knew it.
Absolutely desperate. And I think my dad used to think, well, because he's one of the only people who's left-footed, he might make it. But sadly not. And that dream died at about 13 when I realised.
Did you even have trials or anything?
I had a few trials at sort of county level when I was younger, but didn't go overly far with that. And so I think that was the realisation. But that sort of bred me, that feeling sort of bred into me that I wanted to work in sport. I think when you're young, you don't realise quite how hard it is to get into industries. And I think there are 4 or 5 industries out there where you're almost lucky to be working in it. And so you end up getting paid really badly, treated pretty poorly.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get into them. And so post my university degree in Leeds, where I studied theology, you can't see a huge amount of connection between the study of religion and sport. I found it quite difficult to get into the sports world. Spent about a year doing grad schemes and internships, bit of time in the sports marketing sphere as an intern, and then I took a job in sports sales, selling corporate hospitality basically. That was an interesting world. It was not very tech focused. I was given, I look at what our teams now use to track leads, pipelines from HubSpot to Salesforce. There was none of that. It was cards written by previous people who'd worked there with people's numbers and titles on, and you would ring them and say, hey, I've got, you know, the classic fear of missing out. I've got this amazing opportunity for you. It's cheaper than you'll ever have, than you'll ever get elsewhere. These are the companies that are doing it. They're in your sector. And I think that probably did push me towards a life of working in client. Really, was I enjoyed the challenge of working with clients.
So you left that, and then how did you end up at Goat back in 2015? 2015?
Yeah, 2015. Yeah. So I worked in insurance for a couple of years on the client side in sports insurance. Again, you can see a theme. I just got a bit bored there. I wanted to do something that was a bit different. And some of my friends were working in startups, and I think from what I was hearing from them, the ability to work across lots of different teams and I guess proximity to founders who have taken a risk and are entrepreneurial, I really liked that trajectory. And I saw this ad on LinkedIn for Goat. My dad has actually always worked in advertising, and so I had some mutual connections with Nick, who one of them was my cousin. And I said, what's Nick like as a bloke? Nick's one of the co-founders. And he said, always liked him at uni, top guy. And I went to go and speak to my dad and said, what do you know about influencer? And he works a lot in the sort of procurement side and budgeting of big media and TV budgets. And he said, I'm starting to see it come onto plans in a small way. And I thought, actually, this feels like too good an opportunity. So I went to go and meet Harry and Nick in Albert House, which was Goat's first office on Old Street Roundabout.
And how many people were at Goat at that time? Do you remember?
So the three founders and Emily and Frankie, number 1 and 2 employee. And I sat down. Harry was wearing shorts. All of my early memories were of Harry wearing shorts. And then everyone Harry hired seemed to wear shorts. And so that sort of created the divide between the campaign and client team. The campaign team, because they didn't see clients, wore shorts into the office, and campaign and client team, because they were running around London selling, they wore trousers. But I had this interview with them. I was dressed in a suit because I'd come from work, and they laughed at me and they said, do you know what you're coming into? And I said, no, not really. And we spoke about sort of growth of advertising and what they were trying to do. It resonated with me that they saw a gap in the market through a brand that they were working at previously, where influencer should be seen as more than it is now. And I thought that's a great story to get behind.
So did you believe more in the product or the service an influencer than you did the founders? Or did they also sell you?
They sold me, certainly. And anyone that's met Harry, and I don't want to big him up too much because his head's big enough, but he is a bit of a visionary and always has been. We used to call him Rain Man because he created a model that lots of influencer agencies have followed now around guaranteed deliverables and using campaign data to formulate those deliverables. And that's what's created our proprietary tech, Ibex. Harry spoke to me about the industry with such passion that actually when you are taking a leap from another industry, you want to feel that when you speak to a founder, that they are passionate enough to make something that you're going to go into work. And I could see that these guys had worked really hard to get it to where it was. And the sports link that we were talking about, the reason that really pushed me was they'd just won Chelsea as a client 3 months into their from their inception. And I'm a Chelsea fan. They were looking for someone to come in and manage that relationship. I thought, great, I'm going to be at Stamford Bridge every week. That didn't happen. And I think also sort of it taught me that you can go and work in different industries and still scratch that itch of passion. And I think a number of people that work at Goat have had that through fashion, beauty, etc.
Yeah, I really, a bit off topic, but on that, I really agree with that, where I think sometimes you always think you want to work in a specific industry, but actually sometimes working in like an adjacent industry where you still get to touch on that industry can sometimes be better and more interesting. Like I've sometimes heard people go and work for like a fashion brand because they thought that that's what their dream was, to work for like a fashion brand. And then the reality wasn't that great, but then working in an advertising agency where they get to work on fashion clients was their dream in the end.
And also to expand your horizons as well. Like the stuff I learned from working early doors in the sports industry for Goat, because that was really what my role was as an account executive, was to take on acquisition and sport. But then you take that and move that into not your knowledge of gaming and then lifestyle, and I think especially at the start of your career, actually not specializing in something is really useful.
Yeah.
Damn.
And you said you were kind of aware of influencer marketing. Were you following influencers at all? Because this was right at the start of the industry, like were people even really aware of what an influencer was in the way that we all are now?
It's a great question. I guess looking back at it now, I was, but I didn't know that I was. I was following pages on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram, and maybe a couple of personalities around my passion points, which was sport, food, cooking, etc. And but I didn't realize that they were influencing me, and sometimes I don't think they were realizing that they were influencing me because it was that early. And the early days of great memories of being with Aaron and Nick, where we would start the week with a sort of hit list of clients we wanted to go and speak to, and then once the meetings had come in, where we would be pretty punchy, we would say, we could beat your media results through influencer, give us the same spend, and we'll test it and show you and that sort of stuff. And the guaranteed results model was such a way in for us. But we'd set these meetings up, and then we'd split them up between us over the week, and then we'd come back together and we'd say, so like, what's the feedback of these meetings? And 90% of the people we were speaking to, and a lot of these guys were people in industry that had been there for quite a while. We were speaking to agencies as well as brands, had no idea what influencers were, and were actually quite scared about giving a third party the ability to talk about their brand and from what they would say with little to no control.
Yeah.
And so that was the start of I guess our sell, was to make them understand, believe and trust that we did have control on this, and that without going and using said influencer, you've actually got no way to speak to this audience, which is an engaged audience with audience first content. A lot of that first 2-3 years was really trying to persuade marketeers that they should spend their PR budgets or media budgets or some of it on influencer and show them the results.
And what was GOAT like back then compared to now? Because obviously I only joined the business a couple of years ago, so when GOAT was already a very established big global agency.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear from your guys' side a little bit what it's been like over the journey.
It's been really good fun. I think that's like the wrapper for this, that we've had a lot of fun doing some incredible work for clients and some really noteworthy stuff. But with industries, with businesses, things change. And the Shoreditch High Street office, which was the first one that I went into, was above the Pret on the left as you go in, above Glassworks, and you'd walk up these stairs, and it was basically a loft, a converted loft with a big table in the middle. And we all sat around that table. Founders sat at one end by the window for good reason, because it was so hot up there. As you were brought into the business, you would sit sort of next to them, and then it sort of get towards the door. Campaign team on one side, client team on the other. We used to start every day at 10 o'clock, which was nuts for me, who in insurance started at 7:30. And we would start with coffees and daily roundups. So what we wanted to achieve that day, it was run by Nick and then by me after. It was just a buzzy place to work. Like the fact that we were all in one room, that it felt like we could solve a problem just like that, because everyone was there. We could make stuff happen, and then the business grows. And as new clients come in and widening scope of said clients and briefs and all of those things, in comes new people and I guess new offices, and each one of our offices symbolizes a new pile of GOAT. And we won New Look whilst in the Shoreditch High Street office, and then we realised that to deliver that we were going to have to hire very quickly, and also multi-market as well. We were delivering in Germany, France and Spain, I think, and we needed social media managers there as well. We grew with that client, and then we moved into Paul Street, and that's, I think, where we had our sort of quickest growth. Was we were just winning lots of new clients, getting new people through the door the whole time, and that was great fun. Campaign team were downstairs, client team upstairs. We had our first.
You had a split. You had a floor split here.
Well, we kind of had to, because campaign team was so big and upstairs was so small and the client team was smaller. And also clients would come in because we had our first board room.
It's like building a house in Sims. This is what it sounds
Yeah,
like. You
it
start
was a
off with
bit.
like a bit of money.
And then you're
like,
sort of like, we need an actual nice room to entertain people in.
Yeah.
You need, different meeting booths and spaces. Yeah.
I think that's what the founders have been so good at. They built Goat on Goat success, and we grew with our clients and our client portfolio, and never did they go and sort of overstretch. It was, okay, right, we've won New Look, and so what do we need to do to deliver that, and being very practical with that growth, and always knowing that for a period of time we'd be able to manage what we have now, and then we can grow where we need to.
Yeah. I think because that's a mistake some agencies make, isn't it? Where they just sort of overextend when they've had some success, and they over hire, like take on loads more business, and it could backfire if you lose one or two of those clients, say.
Exactly. We've never been a business that has relied on a client for teams. You know how in some agencies X client goes and the whole team has to depart with it.
Yeah.
Right.
We've always if we lost a client, we would find places for these people to go, or back ourselves, so we'd go and win other work.
Yeah. And I guess it was around that time that you joined, Matt, maybe that high growth period.
I didn't
where-
go into Finsbury Square because I thought you would say, give your piece on it.
Finsbury Square, I arrived.
Finsbury.
Sorry?
Finsbury.
Finsbury?
Yeah.
What have I been calling it?
Finsbury. Well, why don't I lead you up to where the vlog came from? Because so we'd always thought of marketing in a slightly different way, where we're like, let's treat ourselves as a client. What would we want to do? And we've always said to our clients, like, social communities, video, make it authentic. And there was no one out there. Gary Vee was obviously doing his personal vlog, but there was no one out there opening the doors to a business. And what we were doing at the time was so exciting and next gen almost, in like, we had a very, very fully social first team, a fairly young team who were dealing with some of the biggest clients in the world and delivering incredible campaigns, and we were in hyper growth at that point. There were moments where we were hiring someone every other day, which pre-COVID, which sort of shows you the space we needed in Finsbury Square, sorry. And we realized that with opening up the doors to Goat, we needed someone who could come in and be very curious, but also very watchable. I wasn't involved in the hiring of Matt, so
You just want to get
I
that
just
on
want
the
to get
record.
that out there to everyone. Where's
Let's
the
face
camera?
it.
I wasn't involved.
I would not be here if this man was
Yeah.
involved in hiring me.
I remember Matt's first day where he just picked up a camera and broke down barriers immediately by just standing at people's desks. And you can imagine what someone, 25-year-old campaign manager who's not been in front of a camera before and is being asked about their biggest client, being like, oh my God. And we realized some people were good at it and some people needed a bit of work, but that almost added to the charm. And then you couple that with opening new offices in New York and Singapore, and really showing the global expansion and the amount of travel we were doing for pitches and bringing Matt along. And it became very watchable. And I think for us, it's been some of our best hires and some of our best clients have come from the vlog, because people have said, I want to go and work in a place like this, or clients have gone, I want a bill of what they're doing for other clients.
Yeah. And I think no one else was doing it. Like, agencies weren't doing that at the time. Whereas now you do see other agencies trying to replicate it, but without the success, I think, because
it can't be led by the senior management. That's
Yes.
that's a bit where I think agencies fail, is they go, I'm the personality, and so I'm the person that's going to be either filming or be filmed, asking the questions. No, you need someone who is acting as the viewer. And that's what Matt did so well, was going, okay, speak to me in layman's terms about this commercial model. Why is it more beneficial? And then you get an actual industry expert giving you their view on it.
And that wasn't faked. It's if you get someone sort of from within the marketing world, then it just feels a bit clunky and salesy. But I genuinely was an outsider that came in, and I needed to have these basic things explained.
Yeah. So you started essentially as kind of an account manager. How have you grown with the business?
I was an account executive for about 3 months, and then there was a bit of a reshuffle, and Nick basically said to me, we're moving things around. We'd like you to actually run our client team. And maybe 6 months in, and from that moment, I've basically headed up the client team and its growth. And we were hiring new account managers as we won clients. But my focus up until year before acquisition of WPP, which was in 23, had been on the growth of our client team. And then I moved into more of a central role as MD, where I call it like the operating teams. I was managing the delivery side of the business as well, making sure basically what we're selling is what we're delivering, and having more of a top-down view on that and the day-to-day running of the business.
Yeah. And when you're hiring all these account managers and all the people throughout the business, like what were the things that you were looking for in these people?
It really depends on what stage. Going back to the office stages in Shoreditch High Street, it was about, we didn't have the money to hire account managers. We hired people straight out of college or university who I believed had something that the person that walked in before them didn't have. So it was, have they got the ability to speak to people in a coherent way, but also build trust? And I guess when you're straight out of uni or college, there are some people who are really good at speaking to parents, for example, and then there are some that shy away from it a bit. And you probably want the people that are happy to go and speak to slightly older people, i.e. in industry, and maybe with not the same knowledge base, but have the confidence. And that was the important thing for us in the client team, was these guys were going to be thrusted into positions maybe that people of their age were not normally in, with CMOs of brands, and we needed
really
them.
daunting for people
Definitely.
of that age.
Definitely,
Yeah.
but it was such a young industry, and so you were never going to get experts in the industry at that point. So they had to learn from the people in the business, but then also from there be able to stand up and be counted in these rooms. And the fact that we have number 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 and 10 employees at Goat still here,
That is,
I think,
Yeah.
is testament to
sensational.
what we've built here, which is a wicked culture of being excited about the way that the industry is evolving and growing, but also people that really have believed in the project and have enjoyed the work they're doing.
Yeah, and have stuck around for that long
Yeah.
as well. And how do you think that the client work itself has actually developed over the last 10 years?
Well, I mean, going back to what I said about how it was convincing people that this was a channel, then it was convincing them to part with 2 or 3K from their PR budget or their media budget. If you take that as the marker to where we are now, which is influencer is now a line in media budgets, but then it's all of the other things that come with influencer. And it's this sort of multifaceted approach to influencer where you have, your BAU social content from there, where you're buying rights from said influencer and editing the content and it going out on your social channel. You've got your influencer paid, you've got ad placement out of home. And so the fact that the industry now is recognizing how far influencer content can go in the span of it, for me, is I feel like we're at a stage now with it that perhaps we were in 2017 when we were starting to test influencer paid. We were doing a bit of boosting, and then we realized that running dark ads through the influencer handles was really effective, and we were able to drive stronger acquisition than brands were through brand paid, which was a big light bulb moment for us. I feel like we're at that stage now where there are clients that are seeing that they're not getting the most out of their influencer spend. And what we've always tried to do as an agency is show the value of our work through actual monetary value. And I tell all of our client team to speak to their clients about, do they believe that they're getting the most out of every single pound or dollar that goes into their influencer line of business? And most of the time you can draw a line around the stuff that they're doing, which is organic influencer, i.e. just being posted on their page, and maybe a bit of boosting or paid partnership, sometimes some dark ads, but very rarely looking at ad placements, using influencer content in store, on website, in recipe content. There is so much room for growth of the industry as people start to, back in the day when I was saying influencer is actually a channel, you can trust them, give us some of your budget. We're now at that stage of trying to show again that influencer is more than just what people think it is.
So this is like leveling up from, we've done the educational stuff over the last 10 years to, okay, how can we like expand this into the larger marketing universe?
I think so. Like, I don't think any brand is using influencer to its full entirety of like its powers, because there will always be something that they could be doing. No, I don't. I really don't. And
what is the full extent?
Well, it's
in a nutshell.
It's taking that piece of influencer content and pulling it through your entire marketing mix, because audience first content works better than brand first content. Like, we can all agree on that. And then after that, well, you've got this incredible piece of audience first content. Where is it going to go? It's going to go into your brand page, your influencer page, as I said, on website, email marketing. Like, that's one piece of content you pay for and one set of rights. And I've already labeled 4 or 5 places it can go. And I don't think any brands can say they're doing that. And my job and our client team's job is to convince our clients that, firstly, that they understand that they're not, but secondly, that it is the right thing to do, because they might already have partnerships with content agencies or content platforms that are giving them this content. But I really do think content has a performance issue at the moment where it is not working as hard as it should, and influencer content can pick up that slack, which is exciting.
Would you say in an ideal world, all brands should almost be putting influencer like within every single channel, or influencer is like almost at the heart of every conversation about what they're doing, rather than it's still sometimes being treated as like they plan a campaign and then they go, what's the influencer element of this campaign? It should be influencer is part of all of those channels and strategies.
Yeah, I mean, number one, it should never be in silo, and it should always, as a minimum, be planned within social, because social is where the drumbeat and the conversation of your brand goes. If something goes wrong, it goes on to X. If things are popping off and going viral, it's going across lots of different platforms. And influencers give you the ability to talk to those audiences that you might not be able to. And they're an engaged audience. And then they sort of start the train of like UGC, conversation, etc. Whether it's at the heart of every form of advertising, I don't necessarily think that's necessary, but it needs to be at the forefront of these strategies where you see influencers as brand advocates. And I keep seeing across our campaigns that the best content, the best performing content is the most authentic content. It's the one where, and this has been a shift as well over the last few years, where brands are really piling into long-term relationships with influencers, and they're giving back in a way now. You look at our relationships with top-tier celebrities, with Unilever, for example. They are integrating themselves into their everyday life. And when audiences see that, and they see that these guys are actually using them for a reason, they're talking about it, and it's not necessarily about the paycheck, that's where you get the best results.
Yeah, definitely. We've opened new markets. We're in 37 markets now, I think.
38 now, I think.
38.
God damn.
Constantly updating. And what was that like of opening new markets, and how do you kind of maintain the culture now that Goat has gotten so big and global quickly?
Yeah, so the growth side is a very interesting sort of chapter of Goat, where, again, the founders had no real ambition initially to go into the US or to go into APAC. But with the growth in our services and our client relationships, we actually had to have people on the ground there. I remember saying to Aaron, I'm knackered because we're managing a Beefeater campaign from the UK, and it's in Australia, which gives you about 3 hours of working time between that, which means you've got to get all the content signed off, all of those things. And my team were knackered, and I said, I think there's real opportunity out there. And he said, all right, do you want to go in a couple of weeks and do a bit of a recce? I went out there, and we set up a load of new business meetings, came back with, then signed a client out of Singapore, and I was like, well, we're really going to need an office out there. And a month later, I'd moved over there. So that shows you the sort of level of speed the business was operating at. And it was the same with the US with Nick. we'd won a big client out of the US. A lot of the work was being delivered in the UK, but we could go and almost support our growth there through the fact that we knew that we were having guaranteed work from the US. And so Nick moved over there for about 4 years and only came back just sort of midway through COVID.
But that commitment to kind of go, right, I'm packing up my things. And I think it can kind of only be done by young people that perhaps haven't got like roots in.
No, you're right. Like we were able to, and Aaron at the time, I mean, he's married with 2 kids. He wasn't ever going to be the person that could go and do that. And so it made sense for it to be Nick and me. And there were some interesting moments. Like I remember leadership calls where trying to get a time that worked for the UK, New York and Singapore was really difficult. So it'd either be me speaking at 6 in the morning or 6 or 7 p.m. or whatever it was, and Nick at crazy times. But having the 2 founders in London, that being the HQ, they always won on timing. So it's sort of lunchtime for them. But we stuck very true to our operating model. And I would give that as a piece of advice for any business that is scaling quickly is be true to your fundamentals of how you work. You're going to have adaptations to things due to markets and market nuances. And I realized very quickly when I went to Singapore, I was speaking a language that perhaps was a little bit too UK centric. And actually some of the stuff that we were doing in the UK was probably a little bit too advanced for what actually was going on in the market, which was a lot of sort of partnerships where influencers were just talking about brand deals really, and there was no push towards influencer being seen as media. And so we changed the sell and wanted to get in there with the clients first and then start to develop it. But in terms of how we worked, still set up in the same way: client team, campaign team, designer in each business, so that we could turn around new presentation decks and our sort of brief to re-sign, which for all those listening from Goat know is sort of my Bible of how we operate, is our principles, the way that we work from 1 to 50. And that's been developed as we've grown, but that was key to growth and success of Grow.
Keeping like the core things that made Goat a success while still evolving them as the business changes, I guess. Yeah.
Can I ask about your role, like becoming, what is it? Chief president?
Global president.
Becoming global president, did the move to Singapore kind of fast track your growth within the company? And can you just like you went from account exec to MD to bleh?
Yeah, so account exec there for like maybe 6 months or so, and then head of client. And I was head of client for about three years. I had design, strategy, and account management and sales laddering up into me. And then global head of client as Nick went over to the US, so supported him on the client side, and then went over to Singapore, was MD of APAC over there, and was there for a few months setting that up, and then bringing in someone to take over. And then I came back into my role as global head of client, and then up until 2022 was head of client with all of that side coming into me, and then global MD, where I took on the campaign teams as well, so paid, organic, social media management, etc., etc.
You are the most promoted man in the company, I imagine.
I don't know, actually.
That's quite a lot of job changes.
Do you think? It's been 10 years.
It has been 10 years. And you have aged in that time, I'm sorry to say.
I know.
Not in a bad way.
I think you're supposed to age, aren't you, in 10 years?
You're a handsome leader.
It would be quite worrying if it was a sort of, is it Dorian Gray or whatever his name
I was actually just getting smaller.
Yeah.
That sounded like an insult. You're a handsome man. Thanks, I fancy you.
What, just before we get to sort of where we are now and the acquisition, how did you guys deal with COVID?
Did you get it?
Yes. I think like all businesses, it is at first, you've got no idea. You've got no idea what's happening. And we were supposed to be moving out of Finsbury Square into a massive office with a studio. Do you remember? And we were about to put down the deposit for it. And then there was sort of whispers of what was going on in Asia. And we're like, actually, let's pause this. And so we were one of the lucky companies out there that had no bricks and mortar from about 2 months into COVID, which really helped because offices cost so much money. And actually, it feels weird saying this, that COVID was probably our most successful time as an agency.
TikTok exploded.
TikTok exploded. We were already
Yeah.
working with TikTok as a client. We were helping on board influencers on there, and so we were really part of that growth trajectory. And then there was the fact that people were just on their phones so much more. They couldn't go out. They didn't want to go out. Couldn't go out. I look at some of my friends' brands who were D2C e-com brands, and they flew during COVID because it was the time of quizzes with your family, and so people are buying stuff on Amazon, and that was a big part of our journey. Sadly, we then moved into a new period, which was Goat Remote, and we hired remotely for 3-4 years, and sort of still are, and that has meant that we've got people all over the world that have hubs that they report into, but again, we had to keep very true to hiring policy, that brief to re-sign ways of working, and it was a very different time for the agency.
Yeah. And then that takes us to, I guess, the acquisition, which must have been a huge moment. So
Yes.
can you tell us about that and what that was like for you and for everyone at Goat?
Going through an acquisition like that, you've got to keep the wheel spinning of a business whilst also doing that side as well, which is a sort of new part of people's roles that were working on it. But from the moment that we were acquired, it was all systems go, and we mapped out a new structure for Goat going forward, and worked very closely with the likes of DAFs and Scanners, who I know have all been faces on the vlog, to pull it all together. And what it also meant was we had we went from having no bricks and mortar to lots of bricks and mortar, 30 odd different offices. And so again, making sure that operating system was working. But I think that for us, for those that were at Goat coming into WPP, it's a huge moment. It's something that we should all be very proud of. But it also gave us some new horizons, which were working with massive conglomerates out there, where we were part of an agency team, and how that worked, and having experience of working with big creative agencies, big media agencies, has been massive for everyone at Goat, and understanding that side of the world of the advertising world, because for us, we were a startup in hypergrowth, and so to go and see how a big advertising agency operates was mind-blowing for us, but also hugely eye-opening.
It sort of gives those people, like the M. Halls, the Frankie Hobbs, the people who've been with Goat for ages, also like a new thing to learn, like a new kind of part of their career, I guess, because, Goat, as you say, super exciting, super high growth, but it's like a new challenge now, having to be part of this massive conglomerate and working with these huge brands and everything. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There are different expectations working inside an agency team to working client direct. And you look at M. Hall, she's moved into an EMEA-centric role where she's got 17 territories that she looks over. There are new horizons for those people too.
Yeah. So before we ask a few final questions looking ahead to the future, Matt, did you have any? I feel like you're itching to ask a few sort of random questions to Alex.
Can I ask you some random questions?
Go for it.
Where do you get most of your clothes from? Because I'd say as global president, it's quite an unorthodox style.
Do you need a new wardrobe now, do you think?
I hope not.
Top button done up maybe?
That would be quite sort of 2012. Various places, mainly online.
Okay. How can I ask? So we sat down on a Tuesday, I believe it was, and had this company-wide meeting where you announced that you were stepping up into this role. How did that feel? What was it like? I was like, my knees were shaking and I wasn't you.
It was the same day as the new Pope was announced as well, wasn't it?
We got a new Pope first.
Did we? Okay.
Not sure which is bigger news.
St. Burgess the first.
No, it's a huge honour, and it's a company that I'm, as I said in my all hands, it's a company that I'm so proud of, that has fought, going through this, has fought a lot of ups and downs. We've come through on the other side, being acquired by WPP 2 years ago, and we have grown year on year, which not many businesses can say, and significantly grown year on year. And so I feel very proud and grateful for the hard work that's gone into that journey.
What time do you wake up in the morning generally, and what's your like daily routine?
You're a 5 a.m. man, I know it.
No, I'm not. Between 6 and 6:45. I was trying to do a bit more exercise, but I hurt my foot, so I haven't been doing that in the morning, but like to do a bit of exercise in the morning if I can, do a few emails and things before I go into the office by about 8:30, and then it just depends on the day. But yeah, not a 5 a.m. club. I think I'll always look at my emails every day.
Yeah.
Even on holiday, just because you can't not. But you've also got to surround yourself with people that can take this all on, and that are fantastic at their job, and so you have to believe that they can do it. And it's not good for you to be constantly, on a Sunday checking your emails. Once or twice, fine. We run campaigns every day of the week, and so it's worth checking in. But yeah, of course, I try and take some time off, go traveling. I love to travel. Love eating food in different countries is a real pleasure.
What's the industry's perception, do you think, of you in this new position? Because I would just say, like, you're a young guy. You're not too young. But, obviously it makes sense for someone of your age to be running an agency like ours. But is there a different perception in the industry? Will they be freaked out by it?
I mean, you'll have to ask them. I hope not, because that would be ridiculous. But we've always been, and I think if you look at all of the influencer agencies out there, they're run by people probably sub 40 because of the industry. And one of the most interesting conversations to have with the CMO is to try and tell them that they are not the target market. And if you roll that into an influencer agency, you probably want someone that is chronically online and socially obsessed to be there as part of the leadership team, pushing the strategic direction of that business, rather than someone who only consumes TV adverts.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think then for the next few years is going to be your focus at GOAT, or the focus of the sort of industry more widely? It's a very big question.
What I said earlier about pushing that influencer content further around social. Every sort of 6 months, someone in our team says, we've done something new for the first time. And that is so exciting for me. Like, we've done an Amazon DSP partnership for the first time, where you're connecting all of the dots there to keep the consumer inside that sort of ecosystem, and then the tracking ability there and what that gives to a client. And so I would say, like, pile into platforms, AI-centric strategies and sort of and data-first strategies will be huge and are already huge. Remember what influencers do for your marketing mix, and then as an agency, always ask the client, are you getting the most out of your spend? And be prepared to show them how you can do that, and where they need to be doing more of. And it might not be do everything now, but write them a strategy, show them a plan of how we're going to continually develop that spend, and keep testing keep testing those platform relationships and partnerships and push it as far as you possibly can, because it's an industry that, as I said, every 6 months something new's happening, and that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Do you love it?
I love it.
So, okay, final question then. If you are leaving, hopefully I would hope that everyone at GOAT will listen to this, because it's a nice kind of reintroduction to you.
Oh, we've got a quiz.
Oh yeah, we'll test people after. Yeah. We'll make sure. What would be like your final message? You've come into this role, global president. What is your message to everyone at GOAT?
And you can sing it.
Okay, I won't sing it. Tone deaf. But thank you is the first one. Like, where we are today is based on the people we have in the business, and the reputation and the culture we have inside the industry is down to you guys. So thank you for all the hard work. I hope you guys are excited about the next chapter of GOAT. And as I said earlier in this podcast, I think we're at a stage now where there is going to be hyper growth again. I feel I've said that phrase so many times, but
nice.
there is going to be some real growth. And as I said in my all hands, we will continue to pave the way. And so be excited, be curious, push boundaries, and enjoy it while we're doing it.
Great.
So good. Now some random questions.
More.
Favorite Chelsea player?
As a bloke, probably Frank Lampard or Didier Drogba, or Gianfranco Zola, one of the three.
Favorite band or music artist?
Libertines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Shoe size?
10.
Last meal, desert island meal.
Oh, okay. Do you know what? It probably would be like a ragu, a pappardelle, something like that. Just delicious. You know, unfortunately, you're about to die.
Yeah.
And so, like, why not?
Lots of cheese, glass of red wine.
Let all of the, like, let it run through the veins.
Yeah,
Favorite animal?
Boring dogs. Love dogs.
that's fair.
Should we end? The...
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
Not at
taking the
all.
time to speak to us. It's been great to
I didn't
hear
understand
from
much
you.
of it.
Matt lies. He understood all of it.
Of course you do. You've been around the business
He's
long
been
enough.
around long enough, but we're really excited. And yeah,
Three-way handshake?
no,
It's too weird.
but thank you, and yeah, good luck for the next year.
Thanks, guys. Really enjoyed it.